Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ASAP podcast. We're on episode 17. In case anybody hasn't already noticed, I'm flying solo for the first time tonight. Sean has decided to hand in a sick line, selfish bastard. And Tony has decided that stuff for uni is a bit more important than doing a podcast, so he's a prick too. Uh, I know, not very nice. I'm not very nice to him, but no. Hopefully, Sean gets better soon. He returns to the next podcast, and Tony gets all his shit sorted too. We have a special guest on tonight, so I'm not completely alone. Thank God, because I'm so new to this. We have on the podcaster, local comedian, actor, from what I've seen over the years, and avid
Time to time.
supporter of ASL Club North London Red. We have Dave Elliot on the podcast. What's the crack, Dave?
Hello, how's it going, Adam? Thank you very much for having me. First and foremost, those other two guys, not solid enough excuses. I hope Tony feels uni, and I hope Sean is stricken for a while longer yet. So no sympathy for those two guys. But listen, you're more than capable of carrying it by yourself, and I mean this is going to be the biggest episode anyway. So who cares?
Yeah, I agree. Although Paddy McDonald's episode is going to take some beating, that's flan.
Yeah, but the thing about Paddy McDonald is he is mentally unwell as a human, and he should actually be there with a carer. So I think what people are doing to Paddy at the minute is taking advantage of him, and it's not fair. So I mean, I think that doesn't count. You know, people are taking advantage of an ill man with Paddy. So listen, I don't mind. It's fair.
Yeah, well, I suppose Paddy is running about spars in Belfast, beating people up like so.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And it was a fair fight. So it's it's grand.
I still can't get over that. That was mental. Dave, before we continue, we always ask our guests our generic question, which will be changing now that the restrictions are being lifted. But your first night out in a pub, what's your first order? And it has to be multiple drinks, not just one.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a tough one, to be fair, because I'm flirting with it. Like I don't know if you know this, but I haven't drank this year at all. Now
Really?
just for no other reason other than I just got so sort of just fed up with it, and I just thought, you know what, I want this when I drink again. I want it to be how I like to drink, and I like to drink in a pub. I like to get into a pub. I like to have cool pints. I like to have the crack, the full work. So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to drink until there's restrictions lifted and I can get into a pub and I can just have pints, and just that's kind of the way I'm gauging it now. And with everything lifting, I think I'm going to go on a bit of a pub crawl with my wife on the 22nd of May. So I'm excited about that. And again, this is where the difficulty comes in, because I was tempted to break my my fast on St. Patrick's Day, as I'm sure a lot of people, everyone's posting pints of Guinness, and I'm looking at going, oh my God, I have a few tins of Guinness in the fridge here, let's go. But
yeah,
I thought, no, I'll wait. And I think as much as I love a good pint of Guinness, the first drink I think is going to be a really cold, just a cold pint of lager. I haven't decided which one yet, but it's going to be a cold pint of lager. And then, if we're getting mashed up, like I like to drink what I don't know if this is a universal name for, crunk juice, which is just Hennessy and Red Bull. Great, that gets you some kind of way, and it's the ticket. Like, so I mean, I think there'll be normally start off a few pints, then I'll maybe move on to that, and then see how it goes now. But when I was younger, my sort of go-to like pre-drink was 6 bottles of Coors Light and a bottle of Buckfast. That was the standard before a night out. The perfect level of drunkenness.
That's me.
The club.
That's me in a nutshell. There, like
it's perfect, isn't it? Like,
oh yes.
Like people would often argue with me. They go, "If that's the perfect level of drunkenness, what happens after that?" And I just say, "Hey, who knows? Can't remember." But when I get into the club, I'm perfect. Then anything after that, it's a problem.
I think Buckfast gets a bit of a bad rap. Like I'm from Lurgan myself, so I know how to drink it and how it should be
you're
drank.
from Lurgan. I didn't know that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have agreed to have done this. So apologies. So I'm just going to go here.
I thought. Thanks very much for joining us. That was Dave Elliot.
Yes, no, tonight. Cheers. It's a lot of fun. Thank you. No, I'm only kidding. But no, Buckfast, it's a weird thing. It's something I sort of got into a bit later in life.
It's an acquired taste.
You know what it is, and I think when
Mickey Bartlett drinking it doesn't help matters. Like he would probably give it a bad rap.
No, I think, but the thing about Mick's not an exclusive drinker. He would just drink anything you would give him. So I mean, like I said, Paddy has mental illness. Mick has drink problems. So I mean, both those guys, vulnerable guys, so I take advantage of them. But no, for me, I through school, I wouldn't have like drank Buckfast. It was only when I was in uni, and this is when I actually think back on this, I think to myself, what was I even A doing, and B, why did I like this enough to start drinking Buckfast? But
Yeah.
I had a student house, and the next day we had a big party, and the next day, I was cleaning up. Obviously, place was stinking and dying of the hangover, and there's just this pint of like purpley brown stuff just sitting on the mantelpiece, and nobody really knew what it was. You were like, what is this? It smelled like it could have been, because we were playing like Kings the night before, so it could have been
It could have
anything
been
in
anything.
there.
Dirty paint.
And then one of my housemates were like, drink it and see. And I sort of, you're a bit hungover, but you're still kind of maybe a little drunk, that you have a bit of that bravado about you. Like,
Oh,
of course I will. I tried it, and I was like, keep going. I ended up downing basically a pint of this stuff, and it was Buckfast. And I thought, this is nice. Like, for a hangover, I was like, oh, this is a good gear. And that was the first time I properly drank Buckfast. Then after that, I've just been on it ever since. And actually, I went on a pilgrimage to Buckfast Abbey once when I was in Southampton.
Really?
I went to, we were I was visiting a couple of mates in Southampton, and couldn't get Buckfast for love nor money. So we sort of figured out Devon's quite, it's not that close. It's like a couple of hours in the car to go there. So we thought, fuck it, let's make a day of it. Let's go to Buckfast Abbey, get a load of bottles of Buckfast, get a McDonald's. We actually ended up we're hanging. We ended up getting a McDonald's on the way to Buckfast Abbey and on the way home. So it was a sort of awful day that was.
Did they give you like a free bottle at the end, or is that a myth?
No, it's a myth. There's a load of myths that were busted whenever I went there. Like, one was the fabled myth about the number on the bottle. That was one that
I know that is a myth, but still to this day, for my own mental capabilities and needs, that I still check.
Yeah, I mean, I would have gone for, I like the 12. I mean, I don't know, other than that was a mental thing. Like, you just
16 for me.
Yeah, and that was it. But no, I went in, and it was strange, because Buckfast Abbey is just it's like an actual abbey where people go to worship. It's like a proper.
They do the midnight mass. They televise it sometimes from Buckfast Abbey at Christmas.
Oh, it's like it's a proper lovely, like, it's a place that when I got there, I was like, oh, we shouldn't be here. Our reasons for being here are wholly immoral. We shouldn't be in this place where people have obviously traveled to worship.
I think if you told the guys up Mashankle Road that Buckfast is made by fiends, I think they'll probably stop drinking it.
Well, I mean, yeah, probably, but then that's cutting off your nose to spite your face big time. Like, but we went into the shop. I asked the question. The guy behind the shop counter was like, you could just see in his face going, "Oh fuck, here we go again, another one of these fucking morons." And he was like, "Do you think if it was different in every bottle, we'd be able to brand it and put it out there as the one product?" No, he's like, "Did Coca-Cola have a million different types?" And I went, "Okay, fair enough." And then just bought a couple of lanyards and some placemats and some Buckfast and went. It was a good time. It was a good day out now, I must say. It was nice to go.
I think the furthest place in the world that I found Buckfast was in Greece.
Nice.
I went on a holiday, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. 16 of us went, and I literally hadn't even got my luggage off the bus, and I spotted it in the shop right beside our hotel. And I was straight in there. I was just called the sniffer dog, because I sniffed it out before I even got my bags off.
But listen, those guys that own that shop are not stupid. They know what's going on. They know the clientele, and they've sorted it. And how much was it? I bet it was dear.
It was €10. Wasn't too bad.
That's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad at all.
I went in and saw a bottle sitting on the shelf, and I lifted it, and I was wearing an Ireland shirt at the time.
Yeah.
And the wee lady behind the counter goes, "Oh, you Irish? We have some in the fridge." So they had a code as well. And I just bought a box. Done me the week.
Yeah, see, that's the way to go. Like, you gotta stock and plan ahead.
Exactly.
But I think
it was Buckfast for breakfast, Buckfast for lunch, Buckfast for dinner, and then die for a month after when I got home.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Because I whenever the first big holiday I went on after school. I mean, I don't know if this is a thing that happens, that your memories of it are always more sweet than the actual moment. So afterwards, I was like, we went there. We were there for 2 weeks in Magaluf. We drank every night. Like, the pre-drink was like a 10 glass every night. And if I did that now, I'd be dead by the second night. I just couldn't cope with it anymore at all. Like, so, something like a Buckfast would be the ticket to get you going. Actually, I went on a stag, and brought a bottle of Buckfast with me. But the guys who were on that stag, have you been on many stags yourself? Would you? I've
just been on one. My brother's stag a couple of years ago.
Right. Okay. Was it wild?
It did get quite wild. We only went to Liverpool, but Liverpool is rowdy enough as it is.
Liverpool's wild in itself, like. But I sort of feel like on stag do's is the only time you can really bring it. Like, say once you're settled, you have kids, you don't get you're not out every weekend like you were before. You almost save it up, and like I don't think I have any drinking ability any more left in me. But when I'm on a stag, I'm like a hero. I'm a different beast altogether. I could somehow just pull it out. So when I was on, where was it, Magaluf again of all places, and I bought a bottle of Buckfast, and I didn't even drink it because the other guys, and it just wasn't a vibe for it. You know what I mean? The other guys in the stag just, I don't think, like, I didn't, it was not like, you know, when you go on stag, you know everybody. There was a lot of boys there I didn't know. So it was like, and they were all talking about, oh, let's just go for a nice civilized dinner. And I'm thinking, I'm away from my kids. If I'm staying up all night, the fucking, if you want me to go to a nightclub, the small hours, I need a Buckfast in me. And these guys were just talking about going for a nice dinner and like walking by the lake and all. And I was like, fuck that. If you want to do that, like bring your wife, bring your flipping, your boyfriend, whatever, and go on a fucking romantic. If you're on a stag, you bring the A game, and these guys weren't for it. So I thought, I can't do the Buckfast because it'd be too wild. So unfortunately, I can't honestly remember the last time I had a bottle. And that's a sad state of affairs. Like,
well, I haven't had a drink from St. Patrick's Day myself, so I'm breaking my fast on Saturday, so I will be having a bottle.
Nice.
And my mouth, I'm salivating thinking about it. Like,
are you going out on Saturday?
No, I'm just going out to my brother's house for a barbecue.
Nice.
I
see. Now you're talking. Maybe I'm thinking I could do that for whenever I get back on it. Like, you've got me flipping going. Fuck, I have a bottle right now. I'm not excited.
I like say when you're in Lurgan, you're walking down the street and there's empty bottles in the street, and even that gets you going.
Yeah.
But that
just gets you.
And even in any bars in Lurgan, if I order a pint, I get a glass of Buckfast with ice, because I don't know if you've ever been in any bars in Lurgan, but it's actually on the optic.
Yeah,
Buckfast is on the optic. That's crazy.
And like, I've seen a few like Buckfast cocktails and stuff doing the rounds, but
there's a butcher's up here does Buckfast pasties and Buckfast sausages and shit like that.
That's brilliant. My brother-in-law, he has a like I mean, I don't know what to call it, that is like bouncy castles and stuff like that is his job. So he like hires out all that stuff, and he got like a slushy machine, and he brought it to like one with a big family party, and he brought this slushy like van with him. So obviously that's great for all the kids. You can get all the whatever. And then he had like a Buckfast slushy, and that was great. And it wasn't alcoholic, but it was like you could drink it and be like, that's just Buckfast. That is the exact flavor. You know what I mean? And it was just a great day. Like, so you know, you can say you're looking after the kids, but in your mind you're still going, oh, this is bringing back the good old times. Who fucks came and ruined it?
It's like fucking drinking non-alcoholic Copperberg at a party just to feel like you're drinking. There is a woman in Northern Ireland that could do with a bottle of Buckfast right about now, and that is Arlene.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if she went, you know, like Dominic Cummings, just went full tight. Just like once she goes, she's like, fuck it, I'll tell you everything. You know what I mean? And like whatever, like, see now about your Boris Johnson, I was like, I wish I had sacked that bloody blind bastard before.
He had so many opportunities, and Dominic Cummings is just, I don't think he got his pension or something. He's probably lost out on his pension, and he's cracking up.
I just think that was one of the moments that like sort of stopped COVID being as you know, I guess people taking it as serious. You know, whenever he did that, everyone was like, look, we need to all do it to get through it, and then he just does whatever he wants. And then if you thought
drives 200 miles to test his eyesight,
I know, but I mean, like, obviously the eyesight was pretty sharp to get that, but
exactly.
Like, if he had just been sacked, that'd have been the end of it. You know, people have been like, fair play to you. But then obviously he's, you know, clearly the power behind the throne. Like, there was clearly a need for him to be kicking about. Like, and then after that, it was, you know, that people just stopped taking it seriously there. And then obviously the funeral happened here. People are like, oh, we're not doing it. And it just takes a couple of things. And like with Arlene's side of things, you know, why is Sammy Wilson involved in anything? You know, like, what's going on?
Why is Sammy Wilson? That's,
you know, why is he? But like, I just don't get how, like, the whole time he's like, I'll not like wear a muzzle to eat my ice cream. His hands are all bogging and all, and you're just like, what is this guy?
He's a fucking dirty hogging like him. I can't stand him. I'm no lover of the DUP auditories, but like Sammy Wilson is just that creepy uncle at a wedding that,
but I just think,
won't unbutton his shirt when it's too warm. He just constantly looks like he's sitting beside a radiator.
No, he doesn't look like the sort of guy. Like, he looks like the sort of fellow that just sit in his own in the pub in the corner, and you'd be like, "Fuck, just ignore Sammy, leave him be, just leave him with his wee drama whiskey, and just let him sit himself to his crossword. Fuck's sake, you know."
And then a gay couple comes in and he just starts on them. That's the sort of type of him.
But I just don't. I despair of it. You know, I'm not a big. I used to be quite not into politics. I'm not. You know, I've got a life, but I liked I just could never fathom how people voted for anybody here. You know, I just could never get my head around how. And then you look at it now, and you're like, well, you know, for me, I'd probably say I'm fairly like middle of the road in terms of like I'm from a mixed marriage, so I was sort of brought up very, you know, you take people as you find them. You know,
Yeah.
we're not going to force you to go to the chapel or church or whatever. You can do what you want. And then obviously my Protestant granny, she offered me a packet of Premier League stickers every Sunday in a Mars bar, so I went to church with her because it means I'm not stupid. Like,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you know, just it's now just like, see, I don't know if you yourself as a dad look at things and just go, fuck, all I want is to be able to, you know, provide for the kids, you know, have a good life for them and not worry about them. But see some of the stuff people argue about here, you're looking at it from a rational point of view, going, how does this even, you know, be on the table for an argument? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How can this even be a debate? It's mental, you
And
know. And I
if you
think,
go through my past over the last few years as brought up a Catholic and a Catholic family, I've never had
yeah,
anything like suppose well, I've worked with Protestants and I've never really went to
yeah,
school with any. But the
yeah,
mother of my child, albeit we're
uh-huh,
not together, but we get on great. She's a Protestant,
yeah,
so my child is now, as my friend calls her, a 50-50 Kingsmill. So he calls
yeah,
her Kingsmill 50-50 because
yeah,
she's just going to be reared up. We've decided not to get her christened in either
yeah,
religion because, like,
yeah.
why
See,
let her choose.
yeah, and see, for me,
If
like
she wants religion, like I don't believe in
yeah,
organized religion anymore. So I've lost all
yeah.
sense in it. Like, but
So no, I think there's obviously, like anything, there is clearly some merit in it. You know, I think some of the, like, the basic teachings of like the Bible stories in Sunday school, I'm all for that. You know, it's a
yeah,
basic, you know, right and wrong for kids. That's grand. But I think, like, you know, it's just such obviously the Bible's so open to interpretation. If you want it to be your narrative, you can. It is. You know,
yeah,
whereas if you don't, and the same with, like, you know, I just think the DUP are too, you know, they just always, there's, to anybody with a common sense, they just contradict themselves. They
oh yeah,
clearly, you know, they're like, we were watching the news the other week, and what was the main story? It was like the DUP were complaining about the sea border, or how this is, you know, we're losing our Britishness, this is a disgrace, and blah blah blah. And the very next one was like, we do not want to be grouped in with Britain with the abortion laws. How dare they? And it's like, well, you
yeah.
know,
That seems to be like a common theme here. They don't want to break away from the UK, but they don't want their laws here.
but
Like,
like
you
the way
can't
it
have your
is
cake and
like,
eat it. Like,
yeah, but that's a problem, and that's what I think the issue we have here with Northern Ireland as a country is that both the parties that run it know fine well that they would be worse off if it was a united Ireland, or if it was, you know, run from Westminster. You know, the way Northern Ireland is now, we have our fingers in everyone's pies. You know, we're getting all
yeah,
the dough in, all the politicians are on big bucks. Like, where else would you be able to not work for 3 years and just get paid? Like, it's sweet. You know, they
uh-huh.
know fine well that, so that it's in their best
I nearly
interest
ran
that,
for office
you know,
myself just to get a fucking pay.
exactly. But then that's just madness. And I just think that, you know, with Arlene going, I know a lot of people were saying it's great. I just think that whoever she's replaced us with will, like, you look back at Arlene Foster and go, she was very forward thinking and liberal, that woman, you know, and then you'll see
And
you
that's
think
a
Jim
strange.
Wells or someone comes in,
That's a
you know,
strange
it's,
concept. That like,
oh, it's madness. But like, I just think that the guys who are, you know, the pretenders, or the next ones in line to the throne, will be worse. And I just think, you know, I do worry. I think that, you know, there will be issues again, and I just
yeah,
hope it doesn't happen, because, you know, certainly in my lifetime there's been peace, and I love it. I don't want it to be, you know, the way. But I just think sometimes, and I mean, for me personally, like, I worked with communities for a long time, like, in both sides, and I know that the issues that both sides have are the same, but yet the identity always, you know, supersedes the
yeah,
issues like housing, education, you know, work, employment, stuff like that, all the same issues. And then people forget that because it ends up, it's just, they need to get past that, I think.
I think it's like your kids are quite young, aren't they?
Yeah, I have a 3-year-old and 7-month-old.
So the way I've always looked at it is I think it's our kids' generations that's going to,
Yeah.
it should be the ones like I would consider myself a child of the peace process because I was born in 1984. So
Yeah.
I was quite tail end of the troubles, as I say.
Yeah.
I think it's my kids' generation. Like she's only one,
Yeah.
but
And that's,
it's up to that generation to try and eradicate. It's just
yeah.
the old breed are starting to die out. To put it in a quite morbid way, like.
Yeah.
But like I've still
But
got
then,
my dad on one side. Like he would be like he grew up during the troubles and he came from a Republican area, so he would have his way about it. And
yeah.
suppose growing up, I probably thought the same as well, growing up in that environment. But
Mhm.
see, once I turned 18 and I started being educated alongside,
Yeah.
I started working with them, you start to see things differently. And now that I've had a child
Yeah.
from across the divide, you
Yeah.
just see things so much differently.
I could just think, I just want, and I mean, people obviously, it's like anything, they want what their opinion is to be the right way, whereas you can look at both sides and you can see elements of why there would be grievances or why there'd be issues you can understand.
Yeah,
But I think, like, I know it's like in the Good Friday Agreement, and it's always brought up the legacy issues, and to an extent, yes, some of those elements need to be addressed. If people have been injured or still dealing with consequences that weren't their fault, that's my view. And I think if it wasn't your
yeah,
fault, you got to be looked after. But I think at the same time, if you always are dragging the past forward with you,
yeah,
you'll always have the baggage. So you need to an extent go, right, going forward, what can we do? And see, at the minute, I think both sides need to realize, like, it's not United Ireland at the minute. It's not, central. It's, at the end of the day, Northern Ireland's its own place. There are people who live here just want to get on their lives. They just want their kids to, be able to go to school, be able to meet friends, enjoy their life, be able to have the family time all together without worrying about, where if there's going to be any violence when you go out there, you know what I
yeah,
mean? You just don't want that in the life. So I think until we look at that, we're going to struggle. And I just think with the DUP are the most, to me, unbelievable party in the world, because
yeah.
like how they can keep getting in when it's so evident that their views are so wrong,
But
but yet
I
somehow,
think the mantra is still up here, isn't it? And I've heard it from people I used to work with. It's
yeah,
like we vote them in to keep the other ones out. So they don't
yeah,
even read the manifesto. It's like don't care,
yeah,
don't care, don't care, don't let Sinn Féin
yeah.
in. How it
But
is.
I still think the middle ground parties are the ones that, like, even whenever Stormont was cancelled, the Alliance and SDLP and UUP were like, well, we can do it. We can run the government while they're not willing to do it, and people are like, no, no, you
Like,
can't do that.
and I think
When they'll work together.
Robin Swan being UUP, he has done
Yeah.
a great job and get no credit for it because he's not one of the big two.
No, I think Robin Swan got. I do feel so sorry for him. I think he's just been absolutely mugged, because he was the leader of the UUP and was like, listen, I need to step away because it's too much of a burden on me. I need to have more time with my family. I need to just be in a less stressful role for a wee while. And then they're like, sweet Robin, understand that. And then the next thing is like, fucking health ministry is probably going off for the love of fuck. Like, what have I done to deserve this
I know.
in a pandemic? Like, but I think, I do think he's a more normal thinking fella. And there are a few politicians like that. You go, I
Yeah,
get your point of view, but I just think there's always Godin. You know what I mean? If they just dump the Godin off the other side and just were like, well,
I
like,
think
again,
Jim Allister's the worst for that. Like he is just
but
probably the bitterest man I've ever came across in my life. But
yeah,
he's
well,
great. He's great value for money though. I get a good laugh out of him.
that's the thing. This is like, academically, he's an intelligent person, but you would hear him speak and you go, no, he isn't.
Yeah,
Like he's a flipping barrister or something,
I
and you
know,
go, how's
yeah.
that guy? After the worst is Jim Wells, by the way, who's blocked me on
Oh
Twitter.
yes.
But what I found out was that, and this is which I don't know how to take, whether this is a compliment or an insult, that he apparently went on a purge and just blocked loads of gay people on Twitter, and then all of a sudden I'm blocked. So I don't know whether he's
Well,
he's seen something or heard something that I
he,
haven't, but
he must have seen somebody that night he was in the Kremlin that looked like you. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Probably the other side of the glory hole. Probably, I always peek through.
Did you ever see the time where Piers Morgan got him on the Good Morning Britain and completely shafted him? Like it's not
Yeah.
even on YouTube anymore. Like what was it? The whole what was it? Strictly Come Dancing, same sex dancers,
Yes. Yeah. I
and
mean,
then
and he was wittering and all, and it's like, oh, he just like, oh,
but
just get over.
the best thing about that was Piers literally brought on two males to start dancing in front of him,
Yeah.
and like he was so uncomfortable. And you know what? It was great to see.
Yeah. I know. It's like, I mean, it just if people just give less of a fuck, it's like
Yeah,
see to be honest, like see if if two guys want to get married to two girls, it's not my business, so why,
yeah.
good luck to them. And I think like people that make other people's business, to me, I think like, I absolutely have no issue at all with that. And I just think that for someone who like for Jim Wells, like I don't. Is he going to be invited to any same-sex weddings? Like, it's not like he has to go. Oh fuck! I've been invited to another one of these bloody things. He won't be near it. So just let it go. And I mean,
And like at
I
his
think
age,
they're
like he should be enjoying his, I suppose you
yeah,
could say, the last trimester of life. Like
yeah. But I just don't know those guys. Like, and again, I think the only thing that motivates them really is dough. Like, they're getting
uh,
serious money, and you know,
like
brown envelopes here, there, and everywhere.
like I've had weird visions of him, Gregory Campbell and Sammy Wilson just sitting in a room, just seething at everything,
Hmm.
just anything that
Well,
they
like,
see. Just them three, I think, are the worst men in
yeah,
politics at the minute.
yeah,
If
those
you take the
guys.
Tories out of it,
Yeah, but like, see the whole like with the Tory side of thing, it's like that's how bad Labour have been. That
yeah,
the Tories have stayed in because, like, as much as Jeremy Corbyn's presented as a real, laid back, pretty cool guy, man of the people, he clearly is not good at his actual job. If you
aye,
can't beat, Boris Johnson, and if your own party hates you, there's obviously something not right there. Now, I think
yeah.
his ideals and all are grand, but I just think, if you get absolutely hammered by Boris, there's a problem.
Yeah,
You
because
gotta,
Boris
like,
has been like the joke politician, and he has
yeah.
been for years. And then next minute he's prime minister. Like
Yeah, and he like it's
at the,
just
all
I'd see
everything
now.
that's happened so quick. You're like, really? So Donald Trump's in the White House, and then Boris Johnson here. It was like the most fucked up time in politics.
Yeah, but I just think you know what? I miss Donald Trump. I miss him on Twitter. I don't miss him being a president, of course,
Yeah.
but I miss just hearing his preposterous things he says. And I would love to see him do like a run of like the late night chat shows in America, but everyone
Did
hates
you
him
not see
so
what
much.
he
But
released the other day? He came out with a statement calling LeBron James a racist
why?
because LeBron James called out another white policeman that killed a black person, and he said what he's doing is racist. He's targeting white people, and you're like, really, Donald? Really?
Donald, but see, Donald's an old senile man. He's an old senile man who's just spent the large proportion of his life, just in fact, his whole life, because his dad was minted as well. So he's just an entitled white guy. It's got everything he wants, and he's totally out of touch with reality.
My favorite quote
And
from him was, "I started out from the bottom. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million." And you're like,
yeah,
a small loan, mate? I'm lucky to get a tenner off my dad.
yeah.
And this cunt's getting fucking £1 million.
No, I love that, and I just think that again, for me, I have definitely disconnected a lot in the last few years with politics, and I don't let it annoy me anymore. Because I
Oh,
just think
yeah,
across the board, if you're in a top office, you're bent. You know what I mean? There's no
yeah.
doubt about it. If you're a top, you've had to step over people to get there, and I just don't trust any of them.
I think
So,
there needs to be an SE12 of Stormont brought in.
oh fuck, can you imagine? It'd be
Adrian Dunbar, banned politicians.
I mean, it would just be a total clear out.
How
I
the
think
DUP would
it's
run like
just.
fuck. Who's banned? I'm away.
Banned. But then Jim Wells be hanging about going, which one? Yeah, I'm not going to say anymore there because he's worried blocked me on Twitter. He'll take me to court next. I'll be like, imagine I end up in court because Jim Wells. Oh my God. That'd
I
be a great
sure
story. It'd be good podcast content.
Edwin Poots blocked me years ago because I said something to him about the gay blood row, and he blocked
Yeah.
me straight away. Like I didn't even like say anything nasty. I just goes like,
Yeah.
"What's the deal here?" But
Yeah.
sure,
But I mean, that's the way, isn't it? If you even dare question people, I just go, nah, blocked. Fuck that.
madness.
You know?
So Dave, as I touched on before, you're a comedian, podcaster.
Yeah, I mean, people probably don't know that after that last chat. They're probably like, "You just got some sort of up and coming MLA want to be on here, yeah?" So,
Yeah, I just got like an alliance member and a cool T-shirt and a great
yeah,
background.
I'm definitely not DP in this T-shirt. You know what I mean?
No, definitely not. And I
Yeah,
think,
no,
and like there's not enough camo there to be Sinn Féin,
true.
so you are you're quite middle of the ground. Uh,
Yes.
so talk me through your background and introduction into comedy. I know you've been friends with Shane Todd for a while. Is that
Yeah, well, colleagues. Yeah,
is that
say colleagues.
colleagues? Is that if you're taking the business element out of it, have you been friends before comedy? Did just come into it together, or did just meet through comedy?
No, well, the story was obviously Shane needed someone to write funny jokes for him, and he just hired me really, and that was kind of how, I've just written all the stuff for the last 10 years, and that's really been it. So, no, really, what happened was I was in a sketch group. That's how I kind of got into comedy. I had no sort of background in it at all. I just
I'm
was
going to
a
bring
fella.
something up, and I don't know how happy you're going to be about bringing it up.
It's going to
The-
be Nordy Shore, is it?
That's the first thing I remember you
Yeah.
from, Nordy Shore.
Yes. You know what? I don't have any ill feeling towards it. People are all sort of like, oh, sometimes people be like, oh, Beansy. And I'm like, hey, is what it is. It's fun for the
Who's
time.
looking
People liked
fingered?
it.
Being probably
You
your
know,
best line.
listen, I mean, that wasn't actually a character line. That was just something I said regularly. That's how I entered the room most
Uh,
times in the younger years. But no, I think like for me, we were in a sketch group. So that's when we did Nordy Shore and all that. And whenever I was at the Edinburgh Fringe, I met, guys like Mickey, Shane, and Sean Haggerty were the three sort of fellas who I kind of connected with, from here, first of all.
yeah,
And then, we just got on well. Obviously, I was in the sketch group at the time. Aaron Butler, he was in the same sketch group and stuff. So we've been friends a long time. And then, like, I think there ended up being like, 714 people in the sketch group at one point. So it just sort of eventually ran its course. And as we were stopping doing it, obviously I'd had a couple of years doing that, being involved in the scene, if you will, and I liked it. I met a few friends through it, and Sean and Shane and Mickey were like, "You should try stand up. You're a funny guy. You should try stand up." And like, I've always been, a fan of stand up, but just never thought I could do it really. And then tried it, sucked for a long time. I was going to pack it in, but then came up, like, I wrote a bit that was my first bit. I think that I actually thought I can do this, figured this out. And then just from there, I've kind of been working at it, and I just love it. And I mean, I think I'm doing very all right with it now. So yeah, I just love it. Yeah, and I miss it. I miss it a lot. Like, I didn't think at the beginning I would,
yeah,
because I sort of focused myself doing as much as I could otherwise. So like doing podcasts and writing sort of longer things, and doing stuff along those lines, like laying foundations for whenever we can get out again. But there's nothing like stand up, like, for just getting out there, getting a reaction, and I just love it. Like, it's
yeah.
definitely like,
I love
one of the
stand up,
best.
and like I don't think the Northern Ireland comedy scene gets enough credit. Like,
No, I think it's a strange concept, because we are almost not shunned, but there's an element of the representation of the comedy scene is not, like, if you're to say, like, there's not a lot of comedy that's commissioned, from here or from BBC. Like, BBC and I have a certain amount of slots every year that, like, they like have one slot that they're allowed a panel show, and that's the Blame Game. So because the Blame Game does great numbers, it's been a success for so many years,
yeah,
automatically that's the slot taken. And then they maybe have one or two slots for sitcoms in the year, and that's just all they're allocated from, BBC. So that it's not a big
yeah,
push on that. So again, the main sitcom will be Give Me a Headpiece, and again, it does big numbers and people love it, and it's hard to get anything else on. So I think in more recent years, like, obviously the internet's been a big thing. Like, what Colin, was probably the first one to kind of sort of break through there with the Barry the Blender stuff. And then people have kind of found, if you can't get on TV, you can make your own audience. And now with the way
yeah,
podcasts are and everything, and you can book your own shows, like, and you can book big shows, and you can get a following online, and you can start selling tickets, and it's more sort of at your own control, really. And I think that's the beauty of the way things have gone, that you don't have to do it the traditional way now. Obviously, doing it the traditional way, there's still elements of that there, which is great to do. But I just think the way it is now, we have more access to put our stuff out, rather
Yeah.
than, and then even comedy clubs. Like I think when I started, really, it was only really the Empire was like the main place to be, whereas now there's
Was it
loads
the
of
black
clubs.
box
Like
as well, or is it still going? Or was
the
it still
Black
going?
Box, it's more of like a theater space. You can book shows in there rather than being like a set comedy club or a set night.
Right.
Whereas
Yeah.
now you've got like you've a load of great clubs there. You've Lavery's is smashing, Limelight are running stuff. There's Pug Uglies that I book as well, and it's really good seeing now. And a load of the acts are like, I mean, for someone that's gigged across the UK and Ireland, some of the acts we have here are some of the best
In the
acts
business,
I've
100%.
seen. You know what I mean? And it's just about getting out there and trying to convince people to come to shows to see that. It's like
Yeah.
if you get a bigger name coming over it, you'll go, "Oh, buy a ticket to that," and it's maybe 50 quid, and you wouldn't think twice about it. Whereas you can, come and see an act here for like 15 or 20 quid, and the actual comedy will be as good, like, and it'll be as good a night out. Like, so I think
Yeah.
more people will see that. The better it is for the scene. Like, and I think at the minute it's a good time to be in comedy here, which is
Yeah.
great.
Uh, Probably my favorite comedian at the minute will be Kevin Bridges. If you're looking away
Yeah,
from here, but he's very relatable.
yeah,
The likes of the guys here as well. So
yeah,
I would sort of put him in this, like a lot of you guys in the same category as him, because it's the same sort of content. They're very
yeah,
relatable and they make me laugh just as much. Now,
yeah.
Colin and
Like,
Shane are probably they're I don't know if it's just based on their social media following, but
yeah,
they would be they're the flagship guys here. Now,
yeah, no,
back in the day, it
absolutely.
was always Katie. Now,
Yeah,
no disrespect to Katie, I don't think his stuff's great. It just doesn't.
yeah.
I don't know.
But see,
I think
I think like with like Patrick Kilty and other ones, you'd probably, for him, he at the time, like when he was coming through the Empire, was obviously, at the height of the troubles, doing more, like he probably would have been doing more dirty stuff and closer
it
to the
seems a lot
knuckle
more
stuff.
censored now, doesn't it?
Yeah, but because with that is because he's kind of, he's left here, he's forged out a career as a presenter and other things as well. So he has almost like, he's a bit of a, almost like a family presenter type role as well. So I
Yeah,
think, he has that to sort of keep up. But see, in his day, like he was as good as anyone. That's why I think he's held in such high regard even to this day. But
yeah,
I think the bright side of it is too is like, you know the topics we would talk about now, I think Northern Ireland was often pigeonholed into just always, troubles jokes or Catholic Protestant stuff. Whereas now, you know, we talk, like, for most of my stuff, I always try to write stuff that's, relatable to anybody in the same scenario. So like my last our show was called Dad, and it was just about, what it was like for me having a kid, and which
yeah.
um I think it's relatable to anybody. And it was a lot of fun, and I think it's good that we can do that now. We can find places to do it, really. And I just think the scene at the minute is really good. And even like, with Colin and Shane, they're doing the big shows as well at the minute. But there's some other comedians who, stand-ups alone would be, on a level, if not better than them, and it's just a great scene, and everyone sort of works together and pushes together, and it's great at the minute. It's a really
I
good.
find that Mickey would sort of be. He's always referred to anybody that I talk with who's not really into the comedy scene as much as I am. A lot of people seem to be Mickey's just Barry's mate.
Yeah.
Was that Barry's mate? But like Mickey
Uh,
Barker's stand up is incredible.
See, that's a
He's
problem
ridiculous. He's
that
ridiculous.
yeah, and that's a problem that I have with Shane to an extent too. That, like, sometimes people are like, "Oh, they're his mate," Whereas I
Yeah.
think, you have to try to, like, with us doing the podcast together, we stopped doing that. I think, it was a case of, right, well, let's crack on and sort of build my own
Yeah, I was
audience a
actually
bit.
going to ask you about that because I love Boytown. I thought it was great,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
it
no,
just sort of
it was.
stopped.
I just think with it, Shane had ideas that he wanted to do his own podcast, which is great. Like, there's no issue with it. The only problem was that, I always thought that if Boytown took a hit because of it, or it wasn't as good, or people weren't as interested in it as they needed to be in terms of me and him, basically, there was no point doing it for the sake of it. So,
Yeah,
that sort of happened. I think he got more, and then I kind of was like, well, I'm putting most of my effort into Boytown here, whereas I have my own podcast that is maybe not getting my all, because Boytown's still the top one. So I think whenever that kind of happened, and our producer who was working with us, he just was like, well, I'm not doing it anymore. It just seemed like a good time to be like, well,
Yeah.
we were a team rather than just, so let's park it and just do our own things, and it has definitely worked out. And I think like down the line, um, Shane and I will definitely do something together. Like I think time constraints were a problem. Like for me, I'm going to be leaving work at the end of the year and just going out of full time. Like, so I think when that happens, I have a bit more time. I can, maybe it won't be Boytown, but there'll be something. I would say,
I was actually going to say, do you think there would ever be like
yeah.
a one off special of Boytown to return just for nostalgia's
Well, we
sake?
did
Like,
it. We did it at Christmas. But again, that was another contentious issue that Shane put out as another bonus episode of his podcast, which was not what the intention was of it. But we, I think I'd be up for doing it. Again, it's for me, just it's time really at the minute. It's hard to kind of fit everything in. So
yeah,
hopefully, whenever I am just focusing on this fully, that we'll maybe do another podcast with take some of the elements of Boytown. But again, as we sort of got older, and we're both in our mid-30s now, it doesn't really have this, calling it Boytown. So you look a wee bit pervy, like people are
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at
yeah.
listeners talking about coming all the time. They'll be like, oh no, what are these two fucking old perverts?
I
So
always laughed at the intro when I always watched the video version on YouTube. I just laughed
yeah,
at fucking Boy George and Dale Winton popping up. I was like, oh my, it's so
yeah.
strange. First time I
I
ever
mean,
came across it was by accident. To be quite honest, because I was
yeah.
actually watching was it the General Banter one?
Or
And
okay, I
then
was
do you
going
know
to say
where
like Eurovision or something really gay in camp.
no Jesus. And I just remember sitting there. Do you know when you can't by arse turn anything over on YouTube and then it's just
Yeah.
like auto plays onto something else? And it was
Yes.
actually the episode where Gaddis was on. So
Yes.
that's how I jumped to it. And I just remember landing there, I was half sleeping, and then the fucking big music hit. I scared the shit out of me. Next minute, Boy George is on my screen. And I was like, what the fuck's going on here?
Fuck, is this some sort of nightmare? I've fallen asleep. But
And then you and Shane popped up. I was like, oh, right, I'm okay.
This is a nightmare. Yeah, this is like that is the ultimate. Boy George and she and I just chained to a radiator and his gaff. Like that would be quite a horrendous experience for anyone.
Fucking big time. No, the podcast scene has really kicked off now. I don't know if you know that ASAP, our podcast, just stands for Shite, another podcast. Uh, just well, it was actually meant to stand for Adam, Sean, and Poggy, but the other guy that was
Yeah.
meant to join it, he is like a borderline alcoholic, and we couldn't ever get in contact with him. So he got sacked off. He didn't even make an episode, so fuck him. So then we got Tony on, who's like our sound producer guy. He sort of built this up, because we recorded on this thing called Podbean, and you're safer just shouting in the bowl and catching the echo.
Yes.
It's fucking terrible.
That's I think one of the main things I would sort of say is that, like, I remember when we did our first Boytown, would have been the first podcast I actually I did, and we just sat with no headphones in, no microphones, just talking into a MacBook, and that was the very first one we did. And then like when I did my own, I bought a Blue Yeti mic. This is classic Shane and I, by the way. We both bought Blue Yeti mics because we heard they were good mics to have for podcasts, and we got a wee adapter for them to fit two mics, and apparently we could only work one mic at a time, so we'd spent money on these mics and could only ever have one. So
Yeah,
that never really did too well. And then I think like as time goes on, like luckily now I have a producer on my podcast as well, and he basically goes, right, this is what you need and go and get it. So that's kind of where we're at now. And
well,
and
I work with me and Sean have been friends for years, and we've always talked about doing a podcast even before the pandemic. It hit, then it was like, fuck it, we'll shelve this until everything's back to normal. The longer it went on, and then I got invited on a podcast, a football one, in January. And it was on Podbean, and something just sort of clicked in my head, and I said, Sean, we need to get this going. We'll do a test run. So that was in January. So we enjoyed it. Obviously, it was only a few listeners at the start. It was just friends and family. Still probably is the same. Like, the numbers are decent. Like, we're just two fucking dickheads from the town.
But no, I just think, see, that's what I would say to people, you just have to stick at it and find a reason for doing it. Like, so for me, when I started doing my own, which was at the time, the real just rolls off the tongue, Dave Elliot's Weird Podcast. I don't know why I ever thought that was a good idea, but when I started doing that, it was just because I'm I'm not a tech guy really, so
Yeah.
I could never really do the video or anything like that. So I thought, what could I be doing every week that sort of keeps a bit of relevance going and lets people kind of listen to what I'm about? And I thought I could do a podcast. It's straightforward enough, and that's kind of how it started. And then I thought, right, well, the numbers aren't really big at the start, so they either pack it in, it's a waste of your time, or what do you get out of it? And for me, it was I could like try bits of material. You know, if I had an idea, I could sort of filter it into a podcast a bit and just say it. And I sort of found as the longer I've been doing the podcast, the better my stand-ups got. And I
Yeah.
think the better, you know, I have a better way of working out ideas. And then now, you know, probably I think this is maybe I've been doing from the weird podcast into Sly Guy probably for the guts of 3-4 years, maybe 5 years now, and it's been, you know, built up a good solid fan base, and it's it's doing really well for me, like, and I love it now. It's probably one of my favorite things to do,
Yeah.
you know, especially with having the studio, and then whenever we're sort of restrictions were loosened, it was nice to get back into a studio and seeing Ben again, and just like it was almost like there's somebody else outside of my
Your
family, you know,
bubble. Yeah.
to see.
What
So
What
it
was the
was great. So
transition like between from doing like a group podcast? Like
mhm.
as I said before, we started recording. I'm going solo tonight
Yeah,
because the other two guys aren't available. Uh,
yeah. I mean,
like I find I'm all right now. Obviously, we
yeah,
always done an icebreaker before just to get everybody settled in. But
yeah,
this is my first podcast alone ever.
yeah.
So
Well, you know, I think you know, certainly you've held the fort really well, like, and it's like like to me, a lot of times I think if you're doing a group conversation or you're doing a more than one person on the podcast, it's just a chat. Like, you know, if it feels like two mates having a chat, that's what you want. And this is
yeah,
kind of how this has been. And it's been casual and it's been great. Whereas I think, you know, the difference with doing a group podcast and a solo is you have to. If it's weird to just talk. You know,
yeah,
if you think about it, it's weird to just speak by yourself with nobody else. You know, so you have
yeah,
to almost get into what it is and figure it out as a solo podcast. And I think like I'm probably one of the only ones who does a solo podcast can always, you know. I think like most of the other guys will kind of have guests on or have, you know, two people podcasts, and
yeah,
I mean that's grand. I think now I've got so used to doing it by myself, like I wouldn't want to do it with, you know, as a double act. But again, if I were to do a separate podcast, maybe, you know, I'm looking at a few ideas over on the Patreon at the minute of maybe adding, you know, having a like an interview type podcast or just a extra, you know. So for me, I just think it is totally different when you're doing, because with the solo you have to have an idea of what you're going to talk about before you go in. Like you can't just
yeah,
turn up and wing it. Whereas, you know, if you're doing it like with Boytown, there'd be sometimes we'd be like, right, what's happened this week? And we just maybe talk about that. Some days we just turn up and be like, should we just hit record and see where we go? You know, because
yeah,
it's good to just catch up and have a chat. Like so, um, like, yeah, I just think, you know, some people like it and some people don't, and I just happen to be one of the ones that's happy enough to listen to the sound of my own voice. You know.
yeah. Like I sort of had a wee panicky moment earlier because Tony only dropped this on me last minute. Like Sean said yesterday, I think he was sick. So I was like, right, so you might not be here tomorrow. And he's like, yeah.
Uh huh.
Tony dropped it on me last minute. He probably did tell me because I work with him and I probably wasn't listening to
Yeah.
him because he's a bit of a dickhead. Uh, but then I sort of had a panicky moment earlier as I'll go to my girlfriend. I was like, right, these guys have left me in the shit here. We have a guest on the
Yeah.
night. I'm pissed off. I don't know what I'm going to do. And like, she just sent me a big message. Good luck on your own. Like
Yeah.
she was worried about it, but I've settled in all right. I still don't think I would ever
Yeah.
be able to do a podcast solo for a
Nah,
while
fuck
yet.
those guys. Absolutely fuck them. They're gone. It's your show now. You don't need these guys anymore.
I might just replace their faces on the logo with just poo emojis or just
Yeah, just
fuck
big
them.
X's. Fuck them. Yeah, just
Aye.
go for it. Yeah.
Bastard, just gonna change the whole name of the podcast and everything, just the Me podcast or something.
Yeah, there you go. I love that. You know, I might actually change my own just the me podcast.
The Me podcast. What does it mean? It's all about me.
So me, all right. Now fucking either you like it or you don't. There
What do
you
you
go.
talk about? Me. Everything's me.
I mean, I mean, I would love the thought of you going back to those two with like just a new ego, being like, listen, I don't need you guys. Fuck yous. I held the fort by myself, and guess what? I liked it a lot.
I
Here
think
we
maybe we
are.
should do like a UFC type conference and you could be like Dana White
Yeah.
and like I just chat shit to them guys.
I mean, it's just start wearing sunglasses and wear open shirts anytime you see them. Just there you go.
Just even at work, if Tony asks me a question, just flip the bird and like
Who the
Stone
fuck
Cold,
are you? You know, give him one of those.
fucking Stone Cold Stunner him or something.
There you
That
go. And I mean,
that actually brings me on.
I
Go on
support
ahead.
it. I support you. I
Oh yeah,
support you with that. I'll have your back, mate. Don't worry.
happy days. That actually brings me on now that I've brought Stone Cold in it. What probably the most viral thing of 2018 or 19, and I discussed it with Woodsy. We had Woodsy on a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago. The Bubbly Boys.
Yes.
That was absolute. Now you were one of the main people in it.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. I
I asked
was.
Woodsy what the crack was with about it. He sort of didn't know because right, it was his wedding, and he said you
Yeah.
guys were at the back of the room, like having your
Yes.
own having your own party.
Yes. I mean, it was just
Are you a
like,
wrestling fan?
yes. Well, I'm
So
not as much anymore, but
I
yes,
I'm the
I was
same.
probably a bit. I was a big wrestling fan back in the
Yeah,
day. Like, I actually wanted to
definitely.
be a wrestler, but before anything else, I was growing up. I was like, I'd love to be a wrestler.
Oh yeah,
But
I elbow dropped my brother from the flight of stairs when I was about 6, so I always wanted to be a wrestler too. Like,
yeah, I didn't actually have any brothers, but I just beat up young boys in my street, like, and that's as an adult, you know, just even now. But no, that was just what had happened was that video Chris Jericho had been kicking about where he is like,
yeah,
ooh, a little bit of the bubbly,
I think the
and
ooh is actually the best part of it.
yeah,
Ooh,
ooh. And I think what happened was we were sitting at the table, and I was at the table with Mickey and McCann. I mean, and that in and of itself, I would say to Woodsy, that's your fault. You shouldn't have had us together. That's a stupid move.
yeah,
It's a dumb move, and that was one of the times, like on a stag, you're switched on. Like I was there, my wife Catherine, she was like, you know, in on it a bit to an extent, but then towards the end of the night, she's like, right, I'm going to bed. Are you coming? I'm like, no.
no,
I'm having much too much fun. And she was like, normally, like, you know, she'd probably be like, are you sure it's a wise move? Because like I get hangovers, and
yeah,
with, you know, so, and she just was like, I've not seen you let loose like this. Just, you know,
go
work
for it.
away. You're having fun. See you when I see you.
She's a
And
keeper.
yeah,
That she
you
is a
know, I
keeper.
mean, she was like, and I loved it. And I was like, you know, you're right. Because a lot of time, you know, I don't know if you were the same, but see, since I had kids, it was like, it was more the thought of getting up with them in the night if they needed me for something and being blocked, not being able to deal with them. I was like, right, I need to
My biggest fear
do a
is
bit more.
like obviously I don't have my kid all the time, but if I do have her, I don't want to
Yeah.
hung over because the thought of wiping
Mhm.
shit from another human with a Buckfast
Oh,
hangover is
but
just
kids just have no respect. They just
oh
don't give a fuck if you're hanging or not. You know, it's
they're
just
assholes.
no,
Like
the totally.
it's just like you're changing a nappy or you're hungover, shit in the face. Thanks.
Yeah, it doesn't bother them. Doesn't bother them at all. So
I'm just gonna wait till she's
I
18 and just grind her forever. And just
I
say
think
that's
she,
what you get. You shat in my face.
yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I thought
Bitch.
you were going to say when she's 18, just you can be like, listen, it's time to return the favor, and just be like, because I mean that's the bright side I think that I have of having two daughters is like, you know, if you have a son, like I always look at my parents that like they've me and my sister
Yeah.
or our two in the family, and like she would be the one that would like, you know, if they're in the home or whatever, she would be the one to go and like care for them and wipe their arses and all,
Yeah.
and then I'd be
I have a
like, ah,
daughter
fuck it,
too, like so
yeah.
I
I
can
have two of
sort
them.
of
I'm getting my like my fucking arse wiped left, right, and center. You know, I can't wait. I get to return the favor. You know, you
yeah,
owe me, guys. You got
exactly.
my back. But that night was just you know when you just it just works. The drinks hitting you. You're not getting too blocked. You're not feeling sick. Everything you drinks just going down great. You know, it's just the atmosphere. That wedding was absolutely fucking great. It was one of the best weddings I've ever been to, and like and that's a bit of a theme like as well because Colin's wedding was another absolutely cracking wedding. I just think it's good when all the comedy guys can get together. Like I say, with us, you know, that's the bright side of it that you have, you know, a group of guys who are actually friends too. Like, and
Yeah.
there's, you know, it's nice to have it. And, you know, that night was just fucking great. And then what happened when we went in to the room was like me and McCann and Mickey were together, and Catherine was there, and a few of the others guys were there. And when we walked in, we're like, ooh, a little bit of the bubbly. And then for some reason, we just started necking it. And then anytime we were just going, ooh, and it was just more and more to the point where I think we were actually told, this is to do everybody. This,
The
complimentary
champagne.
champagne, you three. And like, let's be honest, myself, Mickey, and McCann are not three small boys. We're big units. Like, so we were, if we're like lurking around like fucking buzzards around the champagne, or like, nah, maybe take these guys out of the equation. But
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. And then, it's been a few moments since then with the odd moment would come up. But
Yeah.
I do look forward to the day where we get properly on it again. I think that'll be
Yeah.
great.
I saw an element of the bubbly the other week on Mickey's Agony Hour on
Yeah.
the deck chair and yums, and McCann phoned in and Mickey ended up fucked. It was
Yeah.
it was well then again, when's Mickey not fucked?
Yeah, no, Mick enjoys a wee drink. Let's be
He,
fair, he does.
we
And
have him coming on next Wednesday. I
he's
took him.
having a drink.
No, wait, I don't know. We'll make it cancelled. I don't know. I think we'll have him on sober first. See what the crack is.
Nah, fucking
But
get him on with the drinking him. It'd be
uh,
great.
well, he's coming on next Wednesday. But like, he's he's eccentric. Some of his lockdown material has been unbelievable.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of it has also been very questionable, and some of it I've gone as a friend. I'm like, do I need to maybe call his GP and get him maybe put into a little,
He needs
hotel
an
for
intervention, I
a
think.
few weeks? Yeah, I mean, I think to be fair to him now, I think he has, settled a bit more recently. He's
Yeah,
looking in good shape. He's lost a bit of weight. He's working
oh, he
out every
has.
day. I mean,
Dapper.
I think he's on the right tracks. But when he shaved his head and he was like always naked and posting videos of his fucking arsenal on the side of a bath, I was like, nah, something needs to be done. Stop
Yeah.
it, please.
Oh.
But
No, he is. He's a good lad. Again, from Lurgan, it might just be a theme that we're all fucking nuts up here. Because
yeah.
any comedian we've had it seems to have horror stories about Lurgan, or nothing seems to be
Mhm.
positive.
Well, that's
But
the thing about me. I think being from North Down, I just kind of don't go anywhere that's unsafe to me. So outside of North Down, even Belfast, I can't go there. I'm afraid. Sorry, I just gig in Hollywood, Bangor, Donegal, and Grimsport. That's me as far as I go. And I'm
that's
actually
you.
doing my Ulster Hall show in December. I'm actually doing via like what's that, like hologram?
Yeah.
That's going to be me. I'm actually just going to do it in my house, and they're just going to put me on the stage via hologram. And Kanye West is paying for it as well, so that'll be a sight to behold.
Yeah, that'd be great. No, I think being from North Down, you just need to wrap yourself in bubble wrap, and like I think if you
Yeah.
left that area, then would your like Google Maps tell you to like turn around, like just for your own safety?
No, my Google Maps they just stop. If you get like you get just the bridge that you go down to Sea Park in Hollywood, and it just says no, you shall not pass. This is where you stop, and unfortunately, that's it for me.
Well, I don't really blame you because there's a big scary world out there. Like I'm from Lurgan, my girlfriend's from West Belfast, so I don't really know what I've
Oh,
got myself into.
mate, you're fucked. I mean, you're done. You had Paddy on the podcast. I think that says enough.
Well,
It's like,
he's Davis. I think my girlfriend's a wee bit more upper class. Pole glass,
where's she? Where's she?
pole glass.
Oh, Polglass, of course, yes. Polglass, the north down of the west.
Exactly. That's
In fact,
exactly
no,
what she said.
that's probably Andy Town, isn't it? It would be probably the
Oh,
the fancy
Andrew
part.
Town, as the locals call it
Yes,
now.
Prince
Andrew Town.
Andrew's Town. Yeah,
Prince Andrew Town. Oh fuck. Poglass. It's just overrun by Polish people now.
exactly. I mean,
It's
locals
to be
only.
fair, she lives in quite a she Poglass is that biggest separated into two places. The side she
Yeah,
lives in, like the Colin
the
Glen.
Lisburn side,
Yeah,
or she, yeah,
her the councilman, they all changed. She was always Lisburn.
yeah.
She's like when we first started seeing each other like 5 years ago. Yeah, sounds. I'm only a young fella. That sounds like so long ago. Uh, it was like meeting her in the town, which is Belfast, and
Yeah.
she said it's actually quicker for me to go to Lisburn, which was quite strange.
Yeah, but also you don't want to ever go to Lisburn either. Like it's another place. Oh,
No, Lisburn. It is questionable. Like
yeah.
even the train station is way behind in its times.
Yeah.
It's a scary place. It's always
So
dark.
with her, where did you meet? What was the story?
It's quite a funny story. We met through like a Facebook thread.
Tinder.
No, it wasn't Tinder.
No,
I can categorize. I've been asked this question over times.
yeah,
It wasn't Tinder. Uh, we were like sort of like it wasn't the Belfast Telegraph. Now there wasn't like a big
yeah,
argument, but there was like a debate under
fucking
some page, and
yeah.
like I commented, and
Uh-huh.
like she liked my comment,
Oh,
and
she loves it. I
and
love
then
that.
and
Back
then
in the
I
day, I was like, ooh.
I said, "Oh, little bit of Westies," and then I had a wee look at her profile, and it's like just me being a brave 20-odd-year-old. I was like, right, I'm going to shoot her a message here,
Yeah,
and we're seeing each other. Uh, we only really got together last year. It was sort of an
yeah,
on-off thing for 5 years.
yeah.
She already had a kid. Then I was sort of had a falling out. I went and had a kid, but
Mhm.
now we've just sort of
The
reconnected. So
spider, I like that. It's like, listen, if you've got one, I'm have one too.
yeah, funny story. I
Yeah.
invited her to my brother's wedding, and she pulled out, and then we fell
Uh-huh.
out, and then I got some odd chick pregnant,
And then you didn't pull out,
and
and then there you go.
yeah, so she pulled out, which
There you
caused
have it.
me not to pull out
Yeah.
in another human, and
Yeah, and
then
there you have it.
and now I have a kid. But no, no, it's all good now. The plan is for me to leave Lurgan because I hate it. It is
Okay.
home, but I hate it. So
Uh-huh.
I will be moving up to her neck of the woods, which
Yeah, well, listen, good luck to you for that. I am, obviously it's a strange, like I always find it weird, obviously when I met my wife, it was very much yeah, I knew very quickly, that she's the one for me. Like
oh,
she
when you know,
gets
you
me,
know.
and I hate it because I always growing up, I'd be like, what a load of fucking shite. When people say,
Yeah,
I'd be like, what is this fucking rom-com bullshit you're talking about? But genuinely, I was like, yeah, I do. And actually, the very first day I met her, she told me a story, and this is how I don't know whether I'm a psycho or not, but when she said what she said, I was like, my first thought as a stand-up was like, this would make good material in a wedding speech. And then
yeah.
a few years later, lo and behold, I segued that into my wedding speech. Boom.
There we go. Happy days. Uh, no, I think that whole love at first sight thing, as cliche as it sounds, is a real thing.
Yeah.
Uh, like that's the only thing I have over her, as in I told you so. And the
Yeah.
whole time that I've known her, she is 99.9% of the time she is right. I think
Yeah.
most women are always right, as much as I don't like to admit it, because their
Yes.
egos don't need that boost. But
Hmm.
it's the only thing because I was the chaser in all of it. So I stuck
Uh-huh.
at it and dug my heels in, and I got there in the end.
Yeah.
It took 4 years, but like when we first got together, she was like, "Why did I not say I saw them years ago?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"I told you so." And
Yeah.
I still bring it up now and again, and like it does put me in the doghouse, but fuck it,
Hmm. Yeah.
that's
Listen,
all I
I
have.
mean, I'm never put in the doghouse. I just live there. That's where I live now. So more often, the odd time, I'll pop my head out and I'll not get,
Yeah,
beaten and sent back in again. But, more often than not, you just, that's one thing I've learned very much about like being married and living with someone is it's a cold war. You're never going to win, but you have to take the small victories when you get them. And when you
yeah,
get those opportunities, you can't leave it. You have to
yeah,
get it. Like
exactly.
one thing happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was out recording my podcast, and it was actually the first episode I was recording since I did up my studio a bit and sort of widened the shot and got a new table, very fancy. And I got an email from her because now people are like, why do you make your wife email you? I'm like, listen, when I'm working, it is what it is. But what had happened was I put my phone in airplane mode because I didn't want it to interfere with all the flipping sound or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just got this email popped up on my computer saying, answer your fucking phone. And I went, oh no, it's
Oh
happened. But
shit.
when it turned it on, what had happened, she had gone out with the dog out the front and the front door had blown shut and she had no key to get back in. So I had to cancel and drive the whole way home to let her in. But I had said to her maybe a couple of day before, I was like, see, now we're going out the front to let the dog out. Just, pull a mat over the door so if it blows shut, you'll not get locked out, obviously. And she's like, don't be so stupid. 2 days later, as much as I was raging and having to cancel a full podcast, I loved the fact that once in
Yeah.
like 5 years, I was right. And
Yes.
I'll never let that go ever.
Yeah. So you have to wait another 5 years before the next one. So just
Yeah, but
live
let's be
off this one
fair.
for a while.
I know I will, but while I say that, there's always things that I do. You have to play things in your favor. Like her her mum and stepdad were the ones who, before we recorded, I was telling you about my dog knocking the wires out of my skybox. But her mum and stepdad tried, to be fair, tried to be helpful a few years back and like lift our TV unit out of the way so the painter could get in. But they just didn't realize that the skybox is like fucking screwed into the area, like the back. So they just
Yeah.
yanked it, ripped the wires out, so it's totally fucked. So it has to almost like balance and slightly be taped in. So
Yeah.
they ruined that. So now whenever that dog wrecked it, I was like, that's your mum's fault. That it's not her fault.
Fucker.
She's like, well, you, and then she's like, the stupidest question she could ever ask: are you not gonna let that go? No, never.
Never ever let it go. I'm never going to let mine go, ever.
No, never, ever.
Until like maybe we do get married or something someday, and I mention it in the wedding speech, and she might kick off. But sure,
listen,
it's a
it
risk
gets
I'm willing
worse.
to take.
Listen, it gets worse whenever you get married. All you have to do is just quietly. And see, for me, like I'm hammered. I've got two daughters as well to deal with, and I'm just going to be like the bottom of the food chain. Even the dog's above me in this house, so you just have to, be calm, relax and just wait. And like I always looked at my dad growing up and was like, why is he always so fucking grumpy? He's a miserable bastard, just sitting there watching the football on Saturday, barely speaks. And then now that I'm married with kids, I'm like, I get it. Major respect that you actually got that
Yeah,
hour in front of the TV on a Saturday, and I understand why you hated your kids because now I have kids.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Uh, moving on from the comedy side of things before we start wrapping things up. You're an Arsenal fan, I believe.
Yes, yeah.
Uh,
Well, a bit
a
at the
bit,
minute. I don't know how to feel anymore. Yeah,
yeah.
fucking.
Well, for the first time in my life in recent history, I'm happy with how my team's playing. I'm a West Ham fan, which
Mhm.
is quite a strange one considering I was reared
Yeah,
by Celtic and Liverpool fanatics.
yeah. I mean, you'd rather choose anybody in Celtic and Liverpool, to be fair. So,
Yeah,
West Ham was that. I was going to say, was it Dix that got you into West Ham? But if you don't listen to football, people are probably going to go, "Oh, well,
Are
that's
you
an
talking about? Are
interesting."
you talking about male parts or Julian?
I'm talking about Julian. He was, I think, when I was sort of first started watching football, he was like the guy at West Ham.
Yeah, it was actually Paulo Di Canio.
Oh well, I mean, what a guy he is.
Yeah,
He's a super
he's a
player.
fascist and he's a psychopath, but he was a great footballer.
Listen, each to their own. If you're,
Yeah,
if you're good at your craft, it's like Ashers. Say what you want about their political views, but by fuck, they do sausage rolls.
yeah,
So
that's true. That is very, very true. Uh,
listen,
the story of how I got into West Ham when I was a kid, I just got football tops because I thought they looked nice. Didn't really know
yeah,
anything about football, so
yeah,
there's a running theme anytime I mention West Ham on like Facebook or anything. My mates are all,
yeah,
"Oh, there comes the Chelsea fan," and I'm like, "Really? You're
yeah,
still holding on to the fact that I had a Chelsea top when I was 8?
yeah,
I am now
yeah.
26, and I have supported West Ham from I was 8." So the first
Yeah, no,
football match I ever sat down and watched was ironically Chelsea versus West Ham. The year West Ham
uh,
got relegated, might I add,
yeah,
and Paulo Di Canio just completely bent Chelsea over and took them up around
yeah.
town. And ever since then, just something just clicked.
Loved it. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that story 'cause that's sort of similar to my story to an extent. I got bought a Subbuteo. That shows how old I am. I got bought Subbuteo by my
Oh,
dad
is
one
that the way
Christmas,
like
and
figurines
yeah, we
game
sort
thing?
of
You flick it.
flick the yeah.
Uh,
So he got me that, and he got me the two teams. He got me QPR and Arsenal, and um, I like QPR. See, I mean, what the thing? The thing about my dad, whenever I was born, he was only like 22 or something when I was born. So
yeah,
that's still, I think, young. Like I had my first kid when I was 30.
yeah.
So, and I'm still a big fucking child. So I can just imagine how sly it must be when you're 22, still wanting to, go out and have all the crack
I
of the
suppose
day
I
and
had
you're
to sort of like your
21.
dad too, because I'm as
Yeah.
25
Yeah.
when I had my
So
first.
it's still, and like, to me, I get, even now, I still like look at myself. Like I'm 34 and I'm like, fuck, I still feel like a child. Like, but,
Yeah,
with him, he was like, there's still a child. I was like, I'll be Arsenal and you be and I was like, I like these guys. They've got the blue stripes. They're flipping, they're great. And I was always QPR, and I just like, I'm a QPR fan. And then my granny took me out one day. We went to the athletic stores in Belfast, and I bought a QPR scarf, and I loved it. And I
in
came home,
Belfast.
yeah, and I got my QPR scarf around my neck. Came home to the house, and my dad was like, "Get that off." And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you can't wear that. And I went, why? And he was like, just you can't, just fucking give me it. And he took it off me and put it away. what I hadn't realized, it wasn't QPR, it was Rangers. I just bought a full. I just saw the Rangers and just wearing a Ranger scarf, and he was like, "Look, you can't, don't be labeling yourself." And I went,
Yeah.
"Okay." So then he just like, "Well, you can just fucking have my Arsenal scarf," and he just gave me an Arsenal scarf, and then from then on, I was like, "Well, I guess I support Arsenal." So that was how that came about, and I must have been about. I was probably really young, maybe fucking 5 or 6. I think it must have been because my granny, like big Presbyterian, she would have, hated the gays, hated my mum who was a Catholic, didn't even want to go to the wedding. She was in the Presbyterian Women's Association. She was
Season
staunch,
season ticket dashers.
she
Ashers
would be
FC.
saying, "Get Arlene out the fuck." She'd be like, "Get rid of her, get Sammy in, and get Jim Wells. Jim Wells for president." She'd be that sort of way. So
Yeah.
she's probably secretly loving the fact that I got a Ranger scarf. She's going, "Fucking, we are the people, son. You go." She's probably loving it.
Posters of
But he was
Steven
just,
Gerrard.
oh, he's just absolutely loving it. And then my other granny's all graffiti on the wall. So like it was just, it was funny. And then after that, my dad was like, "Right, we need to get you to a match." So he brought me to a match, and that was the first like time I remember going. Football's great. Like we went to Highbury, and it was against Man City when they were shit,
Yeah.
and Lee Dixon scored, and it was just a night match. So it was the first match I went to, so all fucking lights. I just loved it. And
Yeah.
then unfortunately, I've been an Arsenal fan ever since, and has been a tough decade of
Yeah.
supporting Arsenal. Let's say.
Well,
So
I've had a tough decade and then some. So
yeah, but you know what? See teams like West Ham, I think it's sly to say, but if you never really have tasted from the top table, you don't know the hurt that it is to not have it anymore.
but
You know what I mean?
I don't think what some people don't understand, especially if you be an Arsenal fan. My whole family's Liverpool, so you can imagine
Yeah,
the 2006 FA Cup final.
yeah.
How
Oh, that was
that's
that was grim.
how that's still now. If it was any other team,
Hmm.
I would have got
Hmm.
over it. But on the
Yeah,
26th of May every year, BBC Sport decide to replay that goal, and I get
yeah,
tagged in it about 16 times between friends and
yeah.
family. So my heart breaks. It's actually coming up to
Every
May
year.
now, so my heart's going to break again soon.
No,
Like,
and Liverpool are the worst dirty bastards too. I remember when Michael Owen scored the goals in the FA Cup final and beat Arsenal in not Wembley in Cardiff.
yeah,
Hated
the
that.
first FA Cup in Cardiff,
Yeah,
that's right.
that was a tough one to get past.
And the
Like,
best part of it was Arsenal were hammering them the whole match, and they
yeah,
broke
but
twice and scored.
then on the bright side of that, we did the same to Man United in the FA Cup at
Yeah.
Cardiff when they absolutely destroyed us and we beat them on penalties. And Vieira scored a winner, and that was his last kick in an Arsenal shirt. What a guy he was until he went to Man City.
I know that's fucking mad. Uh, Funny story about the Premier League about how Ryan Giggs is now shocked that he wasn't inducted into the Hall of Fame. Well, mate, you did sort of like beat people up.
Yeah, Ryan Giggs is quite evidently, again, it's like back to this argument that we were having about Ashers and sausage rolls. What can you need there's a level of like you can separate, the product from the behavior to an extent. Ryan Giggs, not so much. And then slightly further along, maybe than Ryan Giggs is the wrestler Chris Benoit. You can be like, he was very good at what he did, but I
But
think what he did outside was probably should supersede what he did inside.
yeah,
And people are like, would you put him in the Hall of Fame? No,
if
no.
it's based purely on football ability, like kids growing up are going to be looking at these Hall of Fames like, I want to be like
Yeah,
that guy. I want to be like that guy. If he's there,
yeah,
was some 16-year-old going to be like, I want to be like that guy, and then go and like beat
yeah.
his man up?
But then if Ryan Giggs slept with his brother's wife, like you don't get more fucking sly than that. Like that
I
shows you what
know.
kind of piece of shit he is. Like, so this just isn't. And I mean, it wasn't even. It was two people he assaulted, wasn't it? It was like,
It was like two women and coercive behavior. So what is he like
yeah.
beating them up and then like holding them hostage or something?
Like it's like he's the white R. Kelly. So it's like
Him and
it's
Chris
like
Brown would get on. Him, Chris Brown,
oh,
or Kelly would get on very well.
having a great time. Like, and I mean, I just think with gigs, what I don't get is how they're like the Wales FA are like, listen, he's not going to manage us at the Euros, and you're sort of and as if you're going to go, well, that's bloody great. Well, is he going to come back? But I mean, obviously, if he's found innocent or if he hasn't done it, then it's probably a bit unfair to label. But there's no smoke without fire, really, is there?
No,
So he must have
definitely
done
not.
something like to get
And
that
like
far.
his
And also,
reputation was a bit tarnished before that. Like
Yeah, and he's a dirty Man United bastard. So fuck
Aye.
him, the big road chested fuck. I'm
He,
happy to
he
see him go down.
like was he as good as people let on? Like was he sort of a passenger in that United side at times? Because like I
I,
obviously grew up in the era when I was interested in football, so
mhm,
obviously being a West Ham fan, you watch match of the day to the very end because we were always last.
yeah,
So I grew up watching the likes of the Invincibles and the
yeah,
great Man United sides of Sir Alex Ferguson, and he averaged 3 goals a season. Yes, he scored in every season, and he's
yeah.
won a lot of trophies. But he wasn't the first player I always talked about when I was always talking about your Van Nistelrooys and your
But I think,
Vidiches and all that. And like he was just sort of there.
but with Giggs though, he was. I think it was his longevity really as a player. He, like, in his early days, he was like, how he evolved as a player is unbelievable. Like, he went from being basically a winger into being a holding midfielder,
I know.
which, and he played to what, he was 39, 38,
Yeah.
39, which is in the modern game unbelievable. And as much as I hate that goal that he scored against Arsenal, which was, undoubtedly one of the greatest goals of all time, he was clearly like, he would have been, and Alex Ferguson would have always said, one of the first names in his team sheet. So he must have been, some, even if you look at all the people who have been and gone in the era that Giggs was playing, like some of those Man United absolute legends. You have Beckham's, even Keane, wasn't he
Oh fuck, Roy
within
Keane,
Giggs's
unbelievable
period,
player.
and like Van Nistelrooy, you said, even like the likes
Skulls and
of
stuff.
the Ronaldos and Tevez's, and
Aye.
like these guys that he has, he's obviously a different class, like, to be playing at that age, and I think he's a
But
great player.
even while I agree with where you said that, he wouldn't be the first name I would have put. So I don't really see how he's shocked that he's not been inducted. Like
Yeah,
I think Thierry Henry and
but
Shearer have earned their place to be the first two to go into it. Maybe
yeah,
Henry not so much compared to like Shearer,
yeah,
but
but see, the argument you'd have for that would be, I think Henry's the best player that's ever played in a Premiership. I think in
he's
terms of
also a cheating
how,
bastard.
yeah, well, you
That's
know
just me.
what,
That's just me wearing my
yeah,
Republic of Ireland hat.
yeah, but at the same time, I thought about that a lot, and I thought, yeah, that was, you know
That was a bit
bad
sly.
handball. But what would have happened? They would have got to the finals and got
I got
totally
hammered.
decked in the group stages. You know what I mean? So it's like you're saving yourselves a heartbreak, and that's the thing that I've learned as an Arsenal fan. It's the hope that gets you. So you're
Yeah.
like, we're at the finals, and then, I think the best, like, the Republic or Northern Ireland could hope for really is to get out of the groups. That would be a
Yeah.
good achievement
Like
because
we
of
both
the
overachieved
quality
at the
still
last
there.
Euros. Like we
Oh,
did.
and I mean, I'm gutted that we're not going to be at these Euros, like, because I thought, like, having both teams at the Euros were great, and I think there was a good response to both teams. From either side, people were like, if you weren't cheering for Northern Ireland, you were cheering for the Republic. And,
Oh yeah,
like, I know
100%.
for me, I'm a Northern Ireland fan. I love Northern Ireland, but, was a big Republic fan as well during the last Euros too,
Northern
because you
Ireland
just want to
are
see
a
them do well.
far, far more superior side than the Republic.
See the minute, yeah, and I think the way the last few years they have
Stuart Dallas,
been
what a player.
much more solid. Oh, he's a super player, like, but
Unbelievable.
they have got there. But in terms of Premier League, I just think Shearer obviously scored so many goals, an absolute hero, and he won the league. He
Yeah,
with Blackburn, which I think everyone forgets. They're like, oh, he won nothing, but he's won the Premier League. He
yeah.
has done it. But Henri, like, I think the biggest travesty in the history of football is that Henri's never won a Ballon d'Or. I think that's a
Oh yes. I think
total,
that Invincible season, I think he was
yeah.
untouchable. Like,
Oh, and I mean, that's even, like you're saying, that FA Cup final gets you that bloody Wayne Bridge goal. How Arsenal didn't win the Champions League in that invincible season, I have no idea.
I
Like,
know.
that was the closest in terms, but I don't know. He was different gravy. But then you've Burkamp as well as an Arsenal fan. Like, I
Oh,
don't think
ridiculous.
there's been
Was
a
it true?
player
Am
as
I right in
skillful as
saying
him.
that he never went for an away game in the Champions League because he feared flying?
Yeah, he would have had to get buses and trains to it, so,
Fuck
like, he
that.
wouldn't go far away in it. But he would. But, like, when I was younger, I don't know how I managed to do this, but I got to stay behind after a game and meet the players, sort of get autographs and stuff.
Yeah.
And they all came through, and, like, it was the invincible season. I met them all, so it was all these, like, legends, and then, like, all the parents were there, sort of obviously watching you from behind the stand or whatever, and everyone came through. So it was like the Canus, the Gilbertos, the Vieiras, the Perez's, the Youngbergs, all these, like, the Arsenal legends, all of them, Henri, and then they all went and passed and just headed off, see home or whatever. Burkamp came out and got a photo of him, and as he's walking off, I just hear Dennis, Dennis. And I go, why is there a Northern Irish voice shouting Dennis? I look around, it's my dad, Dennis, Dennis. Just calls him over like just a proper dad reaches out, going, "I love you, mate," and shook his hand, and that was enough for him. You know, I was just going, for fuck's sake, can't take him anywhere. But that was the level, and like I think, people just saw how good a player he was, and like
Yeah.
even like his hat trick against Leicester's unbelievable, and then that goal against Newcastle, like you don't really see skill like that,
No,
you know,
definitely not.
anymore.
I think
It's
I
different
think
breed.
the biggest football icon that I've ever came across, icon being a very strong word, would be Neil Lennon because he's from
Yeah,
Lurgan and I've seen him
yeah.
a handful of times.
I mean, you know
He's
what? And the people were giving
he's
him
a
a bit
bit
of
of it. He's a dickhead.
yeah, but
I
people were
don't mind
giving him a
saying
wee
that.
bit. Yeah, I mean, and does he come across in our soul? Eye?
Well, the thing I'll probably get sued for this, but I don't give a fuck. Uh, my earliest memory of him, there's a team called Lurgan Celtic that
Yes,
play
I've
like
heard
the.
of them. Yeah,
So he was injured while playing for Celtic and came and like done a
hmm
kit launch. And was like the guy that like was doing their kit launch and he was injured, so he was over watching one of the matches. And there was a kid who says, "Neil, can I have your autograph?" And he said, "Fuck off, I'm busy."
yeah,
Like, and that was a
I,
kid from his hometown
yeah,
supporting the team where he started.
yeah.
And
That's
another thing as well, this is probably maybe just being a bit of a dick, but Lurgan Celtic folded
yeah,
last year, and apparently, now I don't know how true this is. Apparently, they reached out to Neil Lennon to be like, "Come on, can you help us out with a few quid?"
yeah,
Like, which, like, if I was in that position and the place where I started, and I was on the money he was on, I'd probably throw them a couple of quid just to get them through the year or something. But
yeah,
apparently, he snubbed it. And I thought that was a bit of a dick move too. Like, but my own experience with him, I wasn't too fussed on him. Like,
yeah. No, I mean, I think like the only thing I'd say like recently with him, obviously being blitzed, I think people were like giving off about that in the news and saying, "Oh, he was a wee bit, he was blocked," and I was like, fair play to him.
aye,
Just be blocked, have a good time. Like people just kind
he's
of,
always going to be remembered as a man who fucked 10 in a row up. So
yeah. I
I don't
mean,
really blame him for going out in the lash.
do you think it was him that was the problem?
Well, my dad hasn't missed a Celtic match in years, and every single Sunday on Facebook, it was like state of that team, state of the
Yeah,
substitutions, state of the system, state of the play.
yeah,
And I don't know if it's just my dad being drunk and rambling
yeah,
because he really takes it to heart.
yeah.
And it,
I could,
so, but
but
nah, I just don't think he
I,
was up to it.
I but I mean, he hasn't he won like 3 or 4 leagues with Celtic anyway before
Yeah,
in his
he
previous
started
days?
the 10
Yeah,
in a row. Well, the 9.5 in a row, as I like to call
yeah,
it, the white my dad. Uh,
yeah,
he started at Brenton Rodgers, sort of. The Ronnie Dylas
yeah.
sort of came in, then Brenton Rodgers.
Ironic that won a couple, didn't he? Or one? He definitely
He,
won. No, he
he
won
won the
more. He
first
won a
treble, I
double,
think,
didn't he? Yeah.
or something like that.
And
I
he, but then see, that's it. Cutthroat, out you go, and he's gone. But
I don't know
I
if it
think
was
I
as
had a
much Neil being shit or
yeah,
Gerard being brilliant.
yeah. Well, he's obviously done a good job at Rangers, like to get them to anywhere near competing, like. But
He's waiting on Klopp to go. He'll be the next
yeah,
Liverpool manager.
yeah. I mean, I was looking for a while there. That wouldn't be too long till Klopp goes. If Liverpool don't get the Champions League and the whole kick off about the Super League, he may be. You could see him throwing up and going and taking over. Like there's talk of him going and managing the German national team for a bit
Yeah.
there.
No,
But
Klopp started to annoy me. I used to love him. I thought he was class. He's charismatic. He's a
yeah,
great coach, but the excuses are getting ridiculous now, and he's very, very spiky in interviews. He doesn't like being told the truth.
yeah, no, I wouldn't be a big club fan anymore either. Like,
Yeah, it's just in the last few years. Uh, Dave, before we start wrapping things up, do you want to tell the folks about your upcoming show or shows?
yes, well, I'm hoping to have a few more shows kind of in the pipe works. As in not my favorite place to go in Belfast, but the and just coming up at the minute. There's nothing announced, but I'm looking to book a few more shows. But I'm playing my biggest show to date at the Ulster Hall on 17th of December, which I've been totally blown away with how tickets have sold. Like they're looking really good at the minute, and the tickets are flying out. So if anyone would like to come, follow my social media and get the links through there, or just go on the Ulster Hall website and get tickets. But it's going to be a good show. I've most of it written, and I think it's going to be it'll be a good time.
Yeah, you just hope to get out and trial it a bit before it will.
Yeah, I mean, I think I might. I'm looking at doing a few like. I'm looking to maybe try doing it elsewhere, not in the country. If you know what I mean. I'm
Oh,
looking
right,
to
right. Yeah.
travel across here and there and do bits and bobs and down. I'm looking to go across there and down there. If you know what I mean.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so just try the material. And I think
That
as
sounds that
much as
sounds more like foreplay than a tour, but we'll
no,
go with it.
listen, well here, and then I'll lick it when I'm in both. But yeah, it'll be ready to go. I'm pretty confident of that, and it'll be a nice home show by the time we do it.
Happy days. Well, Dave, that was great.
Yes, it was a
I
lot of
thought
fun.
I thought I thought I, I thought we were just going to go down to. I thought it was going to be like an episode of Stephen Nolan at the start. Uh,
Yeah, I know. I think some like people will be tuning in, being like, "This guy, very enlightened, and then within
thought
10
this
minutes,
was
he's
a
talking
fucking
about dicks
comedian
again."
coming on here.
There you go. I know. Listen, I'm a comedian. Being the comedian's my job, but this is my passion is Northern
Yeah,
Irish politics and the DUP. So I'm glad I get the talk about what I love. You know, I'm all for that.
exactly. Well, that's the main thing. Well, Dave, it was an absolute pleasure. Before we go, I just have to let you know that Man City beat PSG
The dead. What's 4-2-1?
2-1. Mahrez and De Bruyne. I was
Nice.
actually going to stick a bet on before we started recording that they would finish 2-1 because PSG were all over them in the first half, but
Yeah,
that's just peak City for you.
yeah. City. I mean, they should probably win that Champions League from here, shouldn't they?
Well, I'd like to think so because Pep's tried so much with City, and it's like the only thing they haven't won and
Yeah.
since like fucking our boy FC bought them. So
Yeah, I mean, but that's a good thing. See, with Chelsea and with Man City, it doesn't really count because they
yeah,
just bought it all. You know, they just bought the
exactly.
best coaches and just bought the best players. It's fake.
And then Pep Guardiola is a genius because he sold Arsenal Arteta
Yeah,
as the next
my man.
prodigy. Pep Guardiola's understudy, and he is horrible.
Yeah, he's definitely doesn't play any. I was gonna say any brand of football. It's just shite.
Yeah, it's not.
Um,
I used to love watching Wenger's Arsenal back in the day, but
oh,
see,
what I would give, like I was one of the finger out boys, and now I'm like I feel terrible.
get him back into fuck.
Yeah,
Well, then again, I
even though he's
was
old.
always I was a David Moyes. Fuck David Moyes, come back to West Ham,
Yeah,
go away, and now I'm eating humble pie. I was the same about Lingard when he signed. I
yeah.
was like, he won't play. He's shit.
Oh,
What does all he does is
Jailing's
dance?
absolutely tearing it up. He's
Oh, he's
brilliant.
fucking unreal. I love him.
Yeah.
He's my mate.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to stay, which would be even better.
Yep. If we hold on to Declan Rice, which is a bad word in some quarters in
Uh-huh.
Lurgan because it's the same as a
Yeah,
fucking. But I don't blame him really, to be honest,
yeah. I
because
mean, like, see, you know what? I've never said this publicly before, but and I don't know if I will regret it, but like with Declan Rice, I he- I think people should forgive him
yeah.
because I myself forgiven Robin van Persie, and I never thought I would, but I
Oh,
just think, see now, as an Arsenal fan, I look at it and go, that club is a fucking shambles, run
yeah,
by twats, and like he wanted to win the league, and that ambition clearly wasn't met,
yeah.
and then he did, and then he went and
Fair
he
play
did
to him.
win the league, you know, and he
Exactly.
was, to be fair, the best player in the league that year without a doubt.
See, I was so
Um,
conflicted when Declan Rice broke my heart and left Ireland to go to
yeah,
England because he was still a West Ham player.
yeah,
So when he plays for England, I probably sit there and be like, what could have been? Probably still
yeah,
fuck all, but
yeah.
while he
But
pulls
see,
on that Claret and
yeah,
Blue jersey, he's my boy. Like
yeah.
he's
No,
Mark Noble. He's Mark
he's a
Noble's wee brother, and he's turned
I
him
Mark
into.
Noble's has Mark Noble retired? Or did he retire last season, or is he
No,
retiring at the end
next
of the season?
season is his last season, but he's taken on more of a coaching role.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but I'd like to be able to see the fans back in to give him a good farewell because he's
Yeah.
the only player in the Premier League now that has not went to any other club. Like he's stuck with his club from
The
day
one
dot.
club man. Go ahead,
Well,
Mark Noble.
he went on loan when he was a kid, but sure that doesn't count.
Yeah, no, but he absolutely loves it. He loves West Ham, doesn't he?
Oh fuck, Mr. West Ham. He's oh, it'll break my heart when he goes. I know he hasn't really won
Yeah,
anything, and I thought maybe a couple of years ago when Payet and all was there, he should have got
yeah,
into the England squad for the Euros.
yeah. Well, Payet, he was a different gravy for a season, wasn't
I will. He is a cunt.
he? Yeah, no, I agree.
I've left the C bomb for something like that. I hate
Yeah,
him.
no, yeah. I
Give me
mean,
some great
because
memories, but he's a cunt.
yeah, because I mean that's what hurts you the most. The love you had for him, like Van Persie, what a guy, and then does that.
Yeah. And then
But
Arnautovic, he was going down the road of I love this man, and then he fucked off
yeah,
to China, and now fuck him, he's looking back to Europe, and nobody wants him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
Mercenary,
wouldn't
that's what he
be,
is.
yeah. The only guy that's done that sort of thing and people just big respect is Asamoah Gyan. Like he just was like, I'm all about money, and I think he was like, listen, I've got a family with like 15 people in it, so
Yeah.
they need my dough. Like, so I'll go where the dough is at. I don't care about winning trophies. Fuck that.
And here, one player that
Give
actually
me the
has
money.
earned respect from everybody, despite being the biggest snake in football, is Tevez.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like everybody still loves Tevez, even though he completely shit. Well, I love him for obvious reasons. He kept us up one season,
Yeah,
single handedly dragged us kicking and streaming. And then he went to United, and I was like, fuck him, because I hate United. I was like, fuck him.
yeah,
Then he went to Man City. I was like, this is great, this is funny. But then now even United fans are like, Tevez is pretty cool because he then shat on Man City, refused to play.
yeah.
So he sort of got forgiven by United fans by shitting
But
on City.
I think with Tevez, though, wasn't he like he wanted to stay at United? That was the season Ronaldo left. He went, didn't it? And he
Yeah.
wanted to stay at United, but they wouldn't pay like 20 million or something for him.
Uh,
So City would, which in hindsight, like Tevez at United, I don't think got the credit he deserved. You know, he was definitely at a time in like him, Ronaldo, and Rooney were just fucking unbelievable. Like
even
what a front line that is.
Berbatov was in that team as well. He
Yeah,
was
I mean
so
that's
underrated.
rude. Like, yeah, that's an attacking squad. Like,
Yeah,
as much as I
unbelievable.
hate the bastards.
Yeah, no, I grew up to hate United too, but that's just coming from a Liverpool aspect because that's my United's always been a bad word in my house.
Yeah,
But
fuck them
anyway,
so
Dave,
much away.
I think we've rambled on enough there, and I think
Yes, mate. No, that was good fun. I may go to bed here. I'm
I
tired,
have
tired of the podcast.
I have to get up early. I have to go and get the child tomorrow again,
Gonna
so I
get
have
the
to
chill.
go and get the
Yeah,
child from
you
the
know,
Ma's house.
I have to probably my wee fucking one looking up for a shit in the middle of the night. Every night just does a shit, and I was like, all right, just hold it in until the morning, will you? You know,
Yeah,
7 months old can't.
stop being selfish, basically.
I know.
But anyway, Dave, it was a pleasure.
Fuck the both.
Hopefully the next time we'll get you on. All the guys will be here, and we'll have
No,
another good conversation.
I refuse to come back unless it's just you. So tell those two guys no.
No, okay, right. I'll pass that message
Yeah,
on. Dave, it
perfect.
was an absolute pleasure.
Yes, mate. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Anytime. Peace out, big lad.
Yes, take it easy.